8 years ago today, the trajectory of my life completely changed. You may have heard this story in part before, but I very rarely have shared the full story of it. As you can see, I'm not in my usual place at home. Our internet got cut, the cable got cut. And so I'm in our local library, and I made the trip because I really wanted to share this story with you today on this 8-year anniversary of what I famously call the "this ain't living" moment of my life. Quick little backdrop. I had been an abundance coach with my business for 20 years, pretty much. In the first 10 years of my business, I made a lot of money. I was working all the time. And I also had accumulated a lot of debt. Dan and I had accumulated a lot of debt, some from before I started my business, and some while I was growing my business, because of course I bought into the belief that you have to spend money to make money, even if you don't have that money yet. I fell into the pattern of betting on the come, thinking that if I just spent this money and did these things, eventually I'd make enough money that we could pay off the debt. Only if you know the story of my life, it didn't work that way until one day I just couldn't keep making the money we needed to pay for the huge amount of debt we had accumulated. Dan suggested we file bankruptcy, which you can imagine I did not want to do because I'm an abundance coach. How can I file bankruptcy? But we did, and it really was a great act of self-compassion, self-forgiveness, and self-love. But once that need to make all that money and work hard was gone because we didn't have the debt, I went in the other direction. I said, I don't want to work that hard. I just want to have time to play in my garden. I want to be able to go for walks. I want to relax. I want to read. And so we cut our lifestyle way back, way back. I cut my expenses to my business way back so that I didn't have to make much money to be able to play in my garden and go for long walks and do a whole heck of a lot of nothing. And I thought I was happy. And I know in the first year or so, I was, because I had been so burnt out that, like, literally not having to work that hard, my body, my spirit, my soul finally had a chance to recover and get refilled some. And so it continued until this day 8 years ago. Now, it just so happened that a series of events happened the days leading up to this day, April 25th, 2016. And I woke up on that Monday morning, literally feeling like a shrunken shell of the person I wanted to be and I was created to be, that my life had become so small and it was so not what I wanted my life to be. It kind of scared me because I realized that if I continued to live the way I was living, it was like I felt like I was dying from the inside out, that to keep living that way, it was almost like I was unintentionally committing suicide from the inside out. I showed up on a coaching call with Pat, my coach at that time. We had worked together for years, and I just burst into tears. And I remember screaming to her, probably, Pat, this isn't living. And Pat responded in a way that I should have expected, but didn't. She was like, it's not that she was happy that I was suffering so and I was in so much pain. It was that she recognized that I had reached a point of being open to a degree I had never been before. And as she said, it's like, now we can really do the work to free you from whatever's been blocking you. We can take the lid off. And I said, sounds great. What do we need to do? This is the part of the story very few people have heard. And she said, you are finally ready for this 90-day program she had created a few years before. I had wanted to participate in it, and she had dared to say, no, I won't let you be in it because you're not ready for it. She was right. She said, you're finally ready for it. And I kind of went, okay, gulp. Does it still cost $8,000? She said, yep, cashier's check overnighted. Now, what very few people know is on that particular day, at that time in our life, post bankruptcy and everything, Dan and I had to our name in all accounts, any place, $15,000 max. And Pat was saying I needed to take more than half of that, put it in a cashier's check, and overnight her to be in this program. Now, you may go, she shouldn't have asked you to do that and all of that. But see, I had worked with Pat for years. I knew that Pat would not have told me that this is the step if it wasn't literally the next step. But I was freaking out. I was on the love seat in our living room. This was just a phone call, and I literally could not breathe. I managed to croak out, gasp to Pat, help me breathe. And she literally talked me through. She said, inhale. Like, she literally helped me breathe. I was shaking like I was having a seizure. I have never had that profound of a terror reaction to anything I'd ever done. And here's why it was so scary. It was because there were two tracks playing in my mind. There was the messages that I had heard all my life, that I had listened to all my life. You have to make money. You need money. You can't do that and make money. You have to be responsible for money. You got to worry about not having enough money. Like, all of this was coming up. And that voice was saying, you are absolutely crazy, Teresa. There is no way you should spend half of all the money you have to your name for this program. You should go get a job and make money. Like, it was screaming at me. My mom's voice, my voice, other people's voices that saying, no, you can't do this because of the money. And then I had this voice inside of me that woke me up this morning that was saying, this isn't living. And that voice was saying, yes, yes, take this leap, take this leap. And this tension inside of me, it was like I couldn't breathe. I was shaking. And it really was this moment of, what am I going to listen to? Am I going to continue to live my life listening to those messages where I have to make money and I have to be responsible about money, and there's never enough money, and money is more important than almost anything else? I had done that. I had played that game, and it wasn't creating the life I wanted. Or was I going to listen to this new voice inside of me that woke me up that day, that had me blurt out the truth of this isn't living, that had me realize the life I was living, hiding from the world on the farmhouse, pretending like life is great and everything is wonderful, thinking I can't let anybody know what's going on, all of those fears. That was playing in my head. And then there was this voice. Long story short, in a choice that makes absolutely no sense from a money management, money responsibility, any of the money messages you've probably heard, made absolutely no sense. I said yes. I said yes. Because I wanted to live. Now, I could have gone and got a job. But if I had gone and got a job at that moment, it would have been the scarcity. It would have been still buying into money comes first. Money comes first. You need money to be secure. You need money to be safe. You need money to live, like all of that sort of stuff. It wasn't about ignoring the money and the realities of that. It was about no longer ignoring me and what my soul needed and what my soul was calling me to and what I wanted my life to be like and the way I had been living it and the games I had been playing and the messages I had been living from, which were all rooted in fear and scarcity, hadn't worked. It wasn't about the money. It was about the fear that was driving my relationship with money. Fear that I wouldn't have enough. Fear that people would be disappointed in me. Fear that people would think less of me. Fear that I was going to be a failure. Fear of disappointing my mom, even though she had been dead for 20 plus, 30 plus years. Fear that I couldn't trust myself, fear that something was wrong with me, fear that if I didn't live a life like everybody else and have money like everybody else and make money like everybody else, something was wrong with me. Fear. It had run my life. It had run my relationship with money. It was rooted in this belief in my own scarcity. I wasn't enough, and there wasn't enough out there, but I was sure going to try and use money to make me enough, and it hadn't worked. I said yes. It is the biggest leap of faith I've ever taken in my life. And again, it wasn't about ignoring the realities of our money. It was just getting to the point where I'm going to stop ignoring me. It wasn't about being irresponsible with the money. It was about recognizing that fear was at the heart of everything I did. And fear is scarcity. And it was choosing to trust. It was choosing to live in faith in who I am, in my intuition, in my gut, in my needs, and that I was part of something bigger, and that God, the source, the one who created me, wanted me to live a bigger, richer, fuller life than the one I was doing. Because life isn't about money. Yes, we need money to live, but that's not what life is about. Life is an experience that begins inside of ourselves. It's an experience of ourselves. And it's then what we bring to what shows up in the world around us. That day changed the trajectory of my life. It was when I began to start to dive in deep to find out well, scarcity and fear in so many subtle forms was running my life, no matter how much money I made or how little I spent. And I saw the same thing happening with clients. It began a new trajectory of my life, not just in terms of the work I do, but in terms of valuing me, honoring me, trusting the one who created me, and taking care of the money. Today is a very special day, 8 years from that. And if the measure of our courage and our faith and our bravery is directly proportional to the amount of fear we're experiencing, that was the bravest thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of brave things since. There's been more leaps of faith. But I wanted to share this with you because maybe where you're at right now in your life, you're in your own version of this isn't living. And you're recognizing that fear is keeping you small. It's keeping you shrunk, constricted in a box. Maybe you're recognizing through my story how you too are making money more important than you. Maybe in my story, you're recognizing that you've been ignoring you, thinking that you're not enough, and that somehow money or your success is going to make you enough. I wanted to share my story with you Because if you're anywhere close to one of those, this isn't living moments of raw honesty, where no matter what you've done or tried, like you're not living the life you know you're meant to live, then I give you permission to trust that, trust the life force in front of you, take a leap of faith. And if I can support you in that, especially if it's in terms of your relationship with money is what's been holding you back. The lights just went off in the room here. I guess they're on an automatic setting. Then I would love to help you with that. Just reach out to me. Let's connect. Have a discovery session. You are so much more important than the money. And when you get that, then money can take its rightful place in your life, supporting you to fully be who you are, supporting you to live life more fully, not for the money, but for you, for life.